how can we be more productive with our time? So if somebody realizes, my time's just passing, and like the pain of that they're feeling, right? Like, what do I do?
You're wasting all this time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously that can have many causes, but I think if you feel like you're wasting lots of time, I think I would say there's two recommendations that I would generally go for. Two things I would generally look for. The first is about time wasters. So consider how you spend your time during the day. And if you're unsure about it, also maybe just log your hours, right? Really log your hours, including the hours of non-work. So it's like you start watching Netflix or something, like log how long you do that, right? So that you have an idea of here's how I spend my hours. And then set a priority. So if it feels like, hey, I'm wasting time here and I'm spending too much time, whatever, on my phone, on social media, or I'm spending too much time playing video games or something like that, then make a deliberate choice about that where you say, all right, this is the thing I want to do less of, and I'm going to say no to this, right? I'm going to reduce this and instead do something that's important to me. But make that decision as deliberately as possible, at least as a starting point, right? It's not going to solve all your problems all at once, but the thing is, what I think a lot of people will do is they feel like, oh, I'm wasting so much time, and yeah, life is passing me by, this kind of thing. But you kind of make a vague plan. You say, oh, what I really want to do is, I don't know, I want to work on my art, right? But you kind of tell yourself, okay, I'm going to try to spend some more time working on my art. And then nothing happens, because that's not a specific enough plan. But if you say, okay, it seems like I'm spending, an average of 2 hours a night on whatever, social media, games, whatever, the stuff I mentioned, right? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cancel my Netflix subscription and I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to put it in my calendar 1 hour from 7 to 8. This is when I practice my art, right?
Right.
And see what happens. See what happens if you very deliberately cut one thing out that's a time waster and make a plan to insert the thing that's more important to you. That's like active prioritization,
right?
Instead of just wishful thinking, right? So that's one thing I'd look for. The other thing is, if you feel like, so this is assuming that there's something that's wasting your time, right?
Right.
But the other thing could be that you go like, well, I'm always busy with stuff. Like I don't have something to cut out, right? Then it is kind of a different factor of prioritization where, again, you have to try to be more deliberate about what is important work, what is busy work, and try to see, you essentially want to have a clear idea of, let's just call it high and low priority work, and see how can I eliminate some of this low priority work. Can I delegate it to someone else? Can I just not do it? And this really is very context dependent. Maybe it's something where you have to have a conversation with your boss, right? If you're an employee, you have to be like, listen, here's a problem. I seem to spend all my day on this non-important stuff, right? I'd like to do more of the important stuff. Can we figure this out, right?
Right.
And if you work for yourself, it's a different, it's a different situation where, again, you have to fire some of your clients that take up most of your time,
right?
Unproductively, so that you can focus more time on the more important clients, stuff like that, right? So it's very context dependent. But in both cases, the principle is really this: like, instead of just kind of thinking, oh, I wish I could change this, or I'm going to try harder, try to make a very specific plan, right? To analyze what is going on with my time. And can I replace one thing with another thing, right? Less important with a more important thing.
Yeah. And I think this was your advice as well. Like I did this last year. I painted in Google Calendar from like start to end of the day what my ideal day should look like, right? And I look at it, I'm like, yeah, obviously. And then I had a secondary calendar called actual. So schedule versus actual. And the actual, and then at the end of the week, you can see like, oh shit, this is where my time's going, right?
Yeah.
So that might be worth it, yeah.
Yeah, it's very useful. I mean, this is something I did twice, is that I used a time tracking app to track every single activity, which is a bit extreme, right? Yeah. But I would literally if I'm working, I have like a timer going for work. And if I go to the bathroom, I stop that timer. I start the bathroom timer, like literally every single thing I'm doing,
wow.
I'm logging, which is pretty extreme, but it was very, very eye-opening for me to do this, because it's like almost, the crazy thing is you start doing everything on purpose, right? because you have to start and stop timers all the time. So you're always making a deliberate choice. Oh, wait, do I stop the work timer now to go wander into the kitchen and look into the fridge? You know, and you might be surprised at how often that happens. You know,
Right.
So anyway, that's kind of the extreme version. But you know, why not as an experiment? That's pretty
Okay.
useful.
So be deliberate with your actions.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And you know, this is like a pattern. I mean, this is something that will probably come up again. To me, this is just something that has been very useful in my life. Is often kind of the, you know, stop and think and make a deliberate choice first. That is so useful. Not that it, like I mentioned before, not that it immediately solves all your problems, but it just, sometimes it brings a level of clarity by just being like, okay, what is really going on?
Yeah.
It brings a level of clarity that you don't have. And I think we often walk around with quite vague ideas in our heads, you know? So it's like you have the vague idea of, oh, I'm wasting so much time. I should be more productive. I should do this. But it's all like, it's kind of this very vague soup of ideas in your head. And if you really like sit down and write down, what do I actually mean by this? What is actually going on? I've often been amazed at how much clarity that brings.
Yeah. What this person is asking, like, how do I be more productive? That is only a symptom of the real problem, right? Like, what you're saying, track your time, identify exactly where your time's going. Like, that is understanding the problem. And just understanding the problem is literally half the solution, right?
Yeah. And also, I think, look, often, this is also a reason why I advocate for this, is that, look, often people are very capable of solving their own problems.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not just saying, hey, do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, take a clear look at what's going on.
Yeah.
And you understand your context better than me. And I bet that you might be surprised at how well you can actually solve your problems.
Yeah. Like, the difference between what you're saying is, instead of saying, here's what to think, you're saying, here's how to think about it, right?
Yeah.
You're literally enabling the person.
That's what I'm trying to do, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.